What I'm going to do is let our different folks that I invited talk a little bit about their outdoor worship experience, and then we can have some conversation and ask questions and things like that. I appreciate seeing everybody here, and I've got Matthew Allen and Jerry Smith from Olivet. They're doing some outdoor worship. Barry Foster from Unity. We're doing some drive-in worship at Unity. I know Fran and the folks at MISPA just started doing something not too long ago outdoors. And then some of the rest of you may also. Dave Merritt has been out by the Gemein House and has been gathering folks in lawn chairs for several weeks now at Hope Moravian. And then the rest of you may have some experiences too with outdoor worship that you'd like to share. I'm just interested in hearing briefly what you guys are doing, how it's working for you, and maybe a tip or two that you would share with others who are starting to think about outdoor worship. And I will keep staffing the waiting room, and people may still be coming in and out as we talk. But Matthew, I'll let you go first since you were the first one in the room.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It started for us, we had a joint board meeting back in May because I wanted us to sort of be proactive rather than reactive in terms of whenever we might be able to worship again on site. It was very obvious that we wanted to start something outside before we ever go back inside. And so we began to talk about what that might look like. And so we put a group together, a subset of the boards to meet and go over the logistical things. And we got Jerry involved because he's our sound man. And there are lots of different things. We talked about whether to do it, have the music live, with a keyboard and have like 4 people distance singing and those kinds of things. And our choir director wanted to do it where the music was pre-recorded with the organ in the sanctuary, and then that would be played during the service outside. But so we started off. Our first service was June the 14th, and it was strictly drive-in. And I'll let in a minute. I'll let Jerry talk about the sound and stuff. But so what I did was I had a liturgist who stood up there with me and read the congregation's part in the liturgy. And then everybody had a liturgy, though, they could follow along with in their car. And he also read the scripture for me. And I just had a sermon. It was very, it was just pretty short service. But we had, I think, 61 when we were just thrilled with that. And then I think we had 61, 58, 58. And then last Sunday we had 74. We bumped up to 74, and we've had some visitors. And we're also live streaming it. We've had a few technical difficulties with that. And then the last couple of weeks, a few people have gotten out in lawn chairs and sat out distanced. But most people are staying in the cars, and with our sound system, everybody hears very well. And it's just gone over phenomenally well for us. And we also decided to do it at 9 o'clock in the morning, but knowing of the heat. So there was no issue of changing the time of worship. And we've got a setup committee that works well together. And it's just been amazing how well everybody has worked together. And we're enjoying it. It's been very exciting. And we've decided as boards that we're not going to make any target date of moving inside. We're just going to keep worshiping outside for the foreseeable future. And that's kind of where we are. And so I'll let Jerry take it away.
Let Jerry take it away. Yeah, we've been doing that. The sound system works pretty well. It's a system that we've had for a number of years. It's a Fender Passport that we've used primarily in the fellowship hall. The biggest thing technically, having to do the live streaming is a learning curve with OBS and what have you. But everybody seems to be enjoying it, and the people that I hear from, that are watching the live stream enjoy it too. apart from, some of the difficulties I've had. One of the things that was a little difficult is the integration of the pre-recorded music in with the live action. And, you have to prepare a little something for people to see while that's going on. So it takes a bit of time on my part to get the stuff put together before Sunday. We generally record the music on Wednesday night. And that gives me, a couple of days to do a little editing of the audio and put together some graphics to use on the video, so people are not just sitting there looking at Matthew sitting in a chair or a tree or what have you. So, but yeah, it works pretty well and people like it, and they're now getting out. We were going to have an FM transmitter. Unfortunately, finding one that was a low power transmitter a month ago was virtually impossible. People are beginning to stock them again, so we're going to try that again. I should have one by the end of the week, I think. We'll try it this Sunday. That'll give people a little better audio in a car. I'm primarily thinking about people that are hard of hearing, so they can turn their radio on and hear it in the car. So that's sort of what we're doing. It's as Matthew says, it's been pretty well received. Yeah.
I'll just say something real quick. A few of our older folks are coming because they feel safe in their car, and we feel like that we would have less people if we were worshiping inside. So that's why we feel like just to continue outside for the foreseeable future. Oh, and we did communion, and that worked out well a week before last with the the individualized, the wafer and the juice is all in one thing, and that worked out just fine.
Great. Matthew or Jerry, any tips that you would share with people as they think about maybe doing outdoor worship?
Well, I don't know. You kind of, if you're gonna live stream it, make sure that you're doing something that is worth doing. One of the big problems I think will be sound for some people. If all of ours runs through that sound system, so what people hear on the live stream is the same thing that they hear, unless, of course, it's a copyrighted piece of music for which we don't hold a license. And at that point, I just shut the audio down and put a note up. So,
Thanks, Jerry. I would let Barry Foster talk a little bit now about Unity and what they're doing with the drive-in. I do want to answer Mary Ann's question. She had asked about the 25-person guidelines, the top guidelines. Churches are actually exempt from those rules. I mean, in my opinion, that's kind of a little unfortunate, but that's the way the law, the legislature ended up doing that.
So my question was really geared more towards, I understand that churches are exempt, but how do you justify changing those numbers to allow more people?
Mm-hmm.
Was that given a consideration at all of it, or Unity?
Matthew?
Yeah, but I think because of people being in their cars and being socially distanced, we didn't see an issue of safety. And and to start with, we were very clear about everybody had to stay in their car. But then as it got hotter, a couple people asked about sitting in a chair under the shade tree. And I said, I think that's okay as long as you social distance. And they have, and all our ushers and people handing out things wear a mask. So yeah, that's kind of how we did it.
Alrighty. All right. Well, I want to make sure everybody has a little chance to talk about their experience. So Barry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, we live streamed because we had someone in our congregation that could figure it out, buy the equipment and put it together. And that was from the sanctuary, but we felt like we wanted to have communion on Pentecost Sunday, and also John Huss, and now coming up in August for the August 13th. We felt like we could do it outside because we have a large flat parking lot in front of Unity, and it works out well for us. We park the cars. We have someone like ushers to park all of the cars and make sure there were space to park. And everyone could either come and roll down their window. The first time that we did it at Pentecost, we didn't know what we were doing, so we kind of made it up as we went. We did not have the FM transmitter that we borrowed for this past John Huss, and that seemed to work very well. We did have a public address system which worked very well, but some people on the very ends of the parking area had difficult time hearing. So the FM on the radio solved that problem. We served communion basically like we would serve in regular service, that everyone was there, and then myself and my acolytes of the church distributed the wafers first in the liturgy, and to everyone. We were masked and gloved, and the wafers were sealed in a Tupperware container before we went. No one touched it, but we did deliver and hand deliver the communion wafers to everyone, and then we came back and we all partook together. And then we had the juice in the containers that we got from the store. We opened the containers in front of everyone so they could see that they'd never been opened. And we invited everyone to bring their own cup so that we could serve the juice into their own cup, so that they would know that it's theirs and it hadn't been washed or it's paper or any of those things. So we went to each car one by one and served each person. And then, of course, we asked that everybody be masked, both in the car and then we were, as we distributed the elements of, and then we came back and partook together. All the feedback that I got from everyone has been very positive about that several people felt like it was pretty worshipful that we came and presented and brought the elements to them, and they could partake together even in their car. Then we are blessed at Unity to have some incredible musicians, and so we had Rick Madison play the guitar and sing and lead the hymns of everyone singing, but everyone sang in their car, and it turned out really well. We will do this again in August. We will do it again the 1st of October and in November. So we're trying to do at least one outside and do communion one per month as we go forward. So that's what we've been doing, and I don't see us varying too much from what we've done, because the second time we did it, nobody tripped or fell or spilled anything, and that was success for us. So.
Any tips you'd share, Barry, specifically?
Well, we found out, the acolytes and myself, that the containers, the juice containers that you get at the store are plastic. At Pentecost, it was nice and cool, and there was a nice breeze. Thank goodness. It was, that's what it's supposed to be, a windy day, and it was for the Spirit to come. And so it was a breeze, pun intended, by the way. Nobody got that, I know. However, at John Huss, it was very warm outside, almost to the point of being hot. And when you pull those containers out of the refrigerator and they sit on there through the liturgy, and then you grab it with latex gloves, they sweat, and they were slick as glass. And so we had a little trouble handling those containers to pull them in. So we were all focused as acolytes of not spilling that. And we didn't have that issue the first time. So we all got our heads together and said, we will have pitchers on the table, and we will ceremonially pour the juice into the pitchers, and that way we'll have a handle coming up for the August communion service. So those little things, you think you've thought through everything, and then you get to there and then realize that you haven't. So that was one little piece of that.
Great. Great. Thank you. Fran, you want to talk a little about MISPA, what you guys are into?
Sure. We, for many weeks, aired very heavily on the side of caution, postponing both indoor and outdoor gatherings. However, we revisited the possibility of beginning to regather outdoors and celebrated our first outdoor worship service on July 5th. We are very fortunate at MISPA in that sort of the lay of the land around the church makes it very conducive and comfortable for that. We have a large front lawn with wonderful big old oak trees that provide us a lot of shade. In the evening, we have moved our worship time to 7 o'clock in the evening on Sunday. And we also have a lot of ground level door access around that area too, that has made it a little bit easier to have music. We have a clavinova that we roll out to some double doors that are right there at the worship space. One of our members is a composer and musician, and he on that first Sunday played trumpet. This past Sunday, we were blessed again with Kathy's voice joining in for singing. And again, we have plenty of room to spread out to make that safe. We've had pretty good turnout both Sundays, and the feedback that we have gotten so far has been good. I've also heard several people say they are enjoying the evening worship time. Just having a new time slot seems to be good. I have laughed a bit because I feel somewhat like all I had to do on that first Sunday was show up and preach. The board really did all of the legwork and the preparation for this, breaking up into teams to tackle different tasks. And so with that in mind, I'm looking, we have 4 board members from MISPA joining today, Randy and Gail Young, Brenda Holloway, and Kathy Long. And so I would like to just turn the detailed discussion over to them. Jump in, somebody.
Yeah, we're jumping, but not very quickly. We got together as a board really, and we have about 5 or 6 people who attend church there that are under the age of 60. So we were very, very concerned about that group being over 65 and all the other stuff that you hear. So we wanted to wait until we could meet outside and out of the cars, because it was just going to be too hot. We don't have the ability to do the FM. So anyway, we went ahead and planned that for the lawn, and we broke up into groups, and we were planning not only the outdoor services, but also preparing for an indoor service whenever that time comes. So we're in the process of gathering all the materials that we're going to need for that, and as well as setting up outside. We got with the head usher. They verify. People coming in have masks. When we had communion, we had the prepackaged communion kits, and they were set out. And everybody seems to enjoy it. We haven't had any problems with some people in this world are saying that they don't need to wear a mask, but we haven't had any kind of problem like that. Services have gone really smooth. Board members and head ushers, choir director, the organist, they have all just kind of filled in all the little holes that needed to be filled in, and really had a really good turnout, and it's gotten better the next time. So we're looking forward to the one next Sunday.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the signs. One thing that we did too is went on that North Carolina website that DHHS, that the PEC had provided. And so we have purchased those signs and had, or we've gotten those signs printed. And so we have a sign that we'll use once we start indoor too. It's the one that has the three W's, but it also says if you have any of these symptoms, it doesn't say go home, but basically that's yes, do not enter. And so that is posted as soon as before you come up on the grounds, you're going to see that. So that we know that they've been told everything that they need to know. And then we have another one that just has the three W's, and then that sign is posted where it's kind of near where Fran is standing. So we want to make sure that that signage is out there too. I mean, yes, everybody's aware, and yes, everybody's seen all the signs. It's good to reinforce that. And Randy, I don't know, did you mention, if you mentioned we have a love feast, and so the first Sunday. So we had some people with gloves packaged just in the little sandwich bags, the buns, and then we had waters for everybody. So that was the way that we had used our love feast service. And it worked really well. Everybody seems to be really enjoying it under that old oak tree.
Wonderful.
Oh, well, I'll throw in one more thing. I know in one of the meetings last week, one of the Zoom gatherings, somebody asked about folks who were doing outdoor worship, what their plan B was in case of inclement weather. Our plan B is to go home or stay home. Unfortunately, it would be very tempting, given again the proximity of the sanctuary doors to where we gather for worship, to jump up and run indoors, but we are not doing that. We've kind of made that clear to everyone, and actually this past Sunday had a brief rain shower during communion, which actually turned out to be a rather spiritual thing for many of us, with that sprinkling during the sacrament. So that was kind of nice, but did want to just throw that out there. I don't know, Olivet, Unity, Bethania, what you all have for a plan B. I would be curious about that. And Hope as well. David, I see you there.
If it rains, it's canceled.
Ditto.
Ditto.
I will add one thing about Mizpah too. I thought it was really the first Sunday we had it. We have some people down the street from the church, and their church has not opened up to do any kind of services, but they saw our marquee and the fact we were doing an outdoor service, and they came and joined us. And I thought that was nice.
It was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It was indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, we too have had some folks from other churches, another denominational churches, that have come because their churches are not doing any service yet. So yeah.
Yes, since we're on the front yard, the front lawn of the church pretty much, and with a sound system, in some ways that attracts people as they go by, I think.
And I will add another thing that Mizpah did. We made it
publicized it as far as like on our webpage and Facebook, and did a phone tree. We had our congregants are bringing their own chairs. So they are bringing their chairs or a blanket to sit on, and along with their own mask. But we do have a table set up um, where we are providing hand sanitizers there, the mask, if the ushers see that someone comes in and does not have a mask, that we have a mask for them. And just like Fran had said, we had set out the sacrament prepackaged. We'd spaced those out on the table Sunday when we had communion, and people could pick up their own prepackaged without touching anything else. And so we're doing all of that. And of course, when we're sitting, everybody is spacing out on that beautiful big lawn. So I think that we are practicing all the safety measures that we possibly can. And I also set an offering plate out on the table. So, and people are dropping their offering in too at different times.
Great. Wonderful. All right. Well, I want to move on to Dave Merritt from Hope and have him talk a little bit. And then Betty was scheduled to join us and has had technical difficulties, but she's here now. So after Dave talks a little about Hope, then Betty can talk a little about New Hope. And then I know we just open it up for general discussion. Dave, tell us.
Great. We've been doing it for some time. We have 4 different ways people can participate. We have the opportunity for people to sit in their car, because we have 2 powered amps, one for the person who's singing and one for me, and they're positioned in such a way that they can be heard across the grounds, but also into the parking lot. So that's one way, sit in your car. Second way is Facebook live stream. Austin Craver, who works with the BCM, is our technical assistant, and he allows us to do all that work seamlessly, and he records us and all that. So that works out well. People are asked to do all the W's. People are asked to sit in family groups where they have been together. People can sit underneath the trees on a blanket, that type of stuff. The bathrooms are open for emergencies if necessary. And I guess the other way is that people can go back and look at the recorded message on Facebook and get that later on if they're not able to be there. So 4 different ways. We have the option of starting a little bit early. Our worship is at 10. So we start about maybe 10 till with a band playing like you would inside, like a prelude option. And that kind of draws people in. We have found people will pick up on the band prelude, 4 or 5 people socially distant playing. We have created a worship space outside. So next to the Christian Education Building, we have an old window from the 1896 church. We have flowers around it. We have a cross set up. So it kind of gives a little bit of definition to that. And we have found, as all of you have said, that we have a lot of things in common that we're all doing, and we're sharing those things together. And we have also found that the attendance that we generate on Facebook live stream and in person is more than we would have normally in attendance inside. So we have a bigger congregation, which is kind of cool. So we're not changing anything until such time that we have enough evidence and enough guidance to move to some other option inside. And if it rains, we've already pre-said, like for bad weather, we say We're going back to being inside with 3 or 4 people Facebook live stream. So we'll still have the service, but we won't have it outside. And that's how we handled that. It's been well received. We've had people come from fraternity. We've had people come from other neighboring churches, other neighboring Moravian churches that have not been able to have service yet. So I think we're feeling a need, and that has helped us a great deal to kind of be connected and feel the koinonia of what it means to be church. And
Right.
that's it.
Great. Thank you, David. Betty, you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing at New Hope?
Sure. We've been together and having worship outdoors. What we called to begin with was parking
That's
lot.
all we have.
And it was, we've been worshiping outside about 2 months, and fortunately we've been very blessed to have good weather. The first 2 weeks that we were there, we were mainly in our parking lot, and then we decided that it was getting a little bit warmer, and with the blacktop, it was really hot. So we moved over to God's Acre, to where across the parking lot, to where our neighbors have some generous big oak trees, and so we partake of them. And so we have been consistent with the people that have come. We set out a list of logistics that had to be followed, and everyone does have to wear a mask. If they want to wear gloves, that's up to them. They have to keep their social distance of 6 feet. Some people do stay in their cars and listen. But we found it's kind of ironic. The last 3 weeks, I've noticed that they are kind of in their, like in the sanctuary, it's like they're in their assigned seats. They all go drag their chairs exactly the same place every week. And that's kind of unique. And but they are being good about keeping their distance. And we right now are really thinking about maybe getting a transmitter. We are not in a financial position to do like streaming and set all that up. And so we're going to acquire a transmitter, which would mean that it would be kind of like being at the drive-in theater. You would be able to hear that, and it would come through the FM on the radio, and people would be able to stay in their cars if they wanted to. We did have a board meeting last night, and we have not at this point opened up our bathrooms, but we did make a decision last night that we would open our bathrooms. There would be one individual, can only go in, or a group of family members go into one bathroom at a time, and then the other bathroom, the men and the women's, will have a certain way that they have to go in. We have set up a couple that's willing to clean it before it's used that day, and then we'll clean it up at the end of the day after worship. And we did kind of a statistics of what our worship and the people that came to worship and the numbers. Typically the numbers in the summer are usually a little less because people are traveling on vacation. We came up with it. We're within 3.8 percentage of being the same as we have been last year. So, and we started thinking about it. Well, we do have 4 people that are in nursing homes or are isolated and having to, are in their own homes now. So that's been kind of our numbers have really been wonderful. The same people are coming. They're enjoying. We even had a lady last week to say, I'm not sure I'd want to go back in the church. I really like being out here and being outside. And I've had so much fun doing it that I told them it was kind of like I'm either going to have some birds in the sanctuary or have a recording, because I'm so used to the birds and hearing the birds as we have worship. I have someone, the music, I look up the music, try to find different types of music. This gentleman has it come through his iPad,
and we meet, like I had met with him, a conference call today, and today's just been like Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. So if I have to dash out, I've been waiting on a plumber for 3 weeks. He shows up just a few minutes ago, right? Of course. And then I start having technical things. So it's kind of one of those days that a lot of things are going on. We have really had a good time. And like I said, I talked with the gentleman that's helping with the music, and he makes sure that we can get what we want. He pulls it up on the iPad. We have even kind of branched out a little bit, if you will. I am having scripture readers that read, and we have got a splitter and put that into our speaker, and now the other microphone could be connected to the splitter, and we're able to have 2 microphones. And so it's really amazing what you can do. And believe me, I didn't know how to do any of this before, but I'm learning a lot, and I'm really enjoying it. And I mean, our other option is if it was bad weather and we didn't use the transmitter, then we would either have to go with some type of something with Zoom, or maybe consider, doing something on YouTube or something. Because I checked into what it took to do the streaming, it was quite expensive, really. I mean, it was something that really, however, I say that, if there's the need and this continues on, then the resources may have to come and be there to do. We have to do what we have to do to serve our people. And I have found that the people at New Hope are very relational. They have drawn great joy from all of us being together and seeing each other, even though they're having to keep their distance. Now, our offering, the way we do an offering, I put that in part of the worship. The bulletin that I do, I print the bulletin. The bulletin contains all the scripture that will be read that day. It contains all the hymns and everything that we will do, all the liturgy, everything. Everything is printed out and given to each person. And they pick that up when they come in. People that are gloved gives it to them. The offering, we have like one of these little roller cooler type things. Well, it's all fancied up, and that's what the offerings go in. And people can give their offering as they enter worship or as they exit. Because our service backs, the way we have the service now under the shade trees, several of the homes that are behind us, and I don't know if any others, I know Ruth does, she's been there and has seen the homes that are there. They're fairly large homes, and they back up to God's Acre. And we even have 2 households that are joining us each Sunday to worship, and that's between 5 and 6 people a week that we have visitors from them. And of course, we take it and put it in their mailbox, and we ask them, we continue to tell them and put a note in, if you no longer want this, then please call the church office. Communion, we set up and did as a prepackaged type thing. It was all together. Again, it was handed out with, it was, consecrated, and then it was all handed out with someone with gloves, and each one takes it, and then we go through the whole process of communion right there together, and everyone partakes together. And then we take it, of course, to the neighbors, the ones that are visiting, take it to them. But it's a lot of work. I have a crew that comes about an hour before time because all of the equipment has to be set up, and that takes about an hour. It's been very worthwhile. I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I feel like that the people there have too.
Right.
So,
Betty, what time did you say you guys gather?
well, at first we gathered at 11 o'clock, and then as the heat started coming, so we moved it to 9:30. So now we gather at 9:30, and usually our service will last, if communion, it's probably going to be a little longer, but usually 35 to 45 minutes. That's just about all the bladder can handle and the elements that are around you. So I don't know if that will change since we are going to open the bathrooms this week, but that we'll just have to see.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you, Betty, for sharing.
Yes.
And we understand if you need to run and take care
Okay.
of the
Thank
That
you.
is very important. Anybody else out here who is doing anything related to outdoor worship that wants to share, or any questions that anybody has?
Well, I have a question. Just in terms of liturgy, are you guys doing liturgies from the Blue Hymnal, or are you having people say liturgies, or are you mostly just having readers, or how are you guys handling that?
I'm doing liturgy out of the hymnal, but I'm just printing I'm not using the hymns in the liturgy, and I have I call them a liturgist, but they stand up there with me and they just read the congregation's part. But everybody has that printed so they can follow along in their cars.
That's what we're doing. I'm printing it out. Occasionally, I will insert some hymn. It won't be the one that we would normally use with the liturgy, maybe. And I do have someone, I read the pastor's part and the leader's part, and then I have one person that stands away from everybody and reads the congregation's part.
Adam, at Hope, we've been giving limited printouts that people can pick up from a stationary location. And we also share a PDF via email and Facebook so that either people who come to stay in their cars can follow along on their mobile device, or people at home can like have the liturgy in one window and have the stream up in another. So we've provided, a good few ways for people to access that.
Cool. We're starting like the do all of the so Facebook and in-person outdoor and radio broadcasts this coming Sunday. So hopefully we can juggle all that the first time. We'll see. But thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We're sort of a work in progress on that. We're sort of still feeling our way through how best to handle liturgies. The first week we passed out printed copy in the hopes that it would simply give folks something to follow along. And Kathy was our liturgist that day, so she was the two of us were going to do the readings. But I think maybe I didn't make that quite clear enough. Either that, or people's hearts were just so filled with joy at having a liturgy in front of them. I don't know which. Maybe we'll go with the latter. But they read along, and it made us a bit nervous because some had taken their mask off as they were sitting. So given sort of the discussions still around, group speaking and singing. So last week we did not pass out paper copies. And that's when we got caught in the rainstorm during the communion liturgy. So this week we're gonna, I think we decided we're gonna try two new things. We are going to pass out paper copies again. And make sure that people understand if they are planning to read along responsively that they need to have their mask on for that. The other thing that we are going to do is we are going to celebrate Holy Communion again this week. And I am going to write a shortened liturgy because it feels a little bit clunky and awkward to have the hymns in front of us and not be able to sing those. So we're going to try something a little different on that. So as I said, we're still a work in progress. We're kind of feeling our way through this.
And something else to think about, if you do have the hymns printed, even if we aren't singing them, you need to go on the CCLI license and and enter those hymns because they've been printed, even though, I mean, I talked to them about that, and they said that you need to do that. One other thing I wanted to point out, that what Fran is doing, she is on our Mizpah's Facebook every Sunday. She'll have a message, and she's continuing to do that because we have some members that say, until I see 0 cases in Forsyth County, I'm not coming back. So this gives them the opportunity to have that message even if they're not coming. So even though we're having Sunday night service, she's still going to have the message for anyone who wants to call it. And from what Fran has said, just like someone else was talking about, we've had a lot more people coming and listening to the message that would not have heard it otherwise. So that's been a blessing.
There was a question asked in the chat about live streaming or doing Zoom worship. And I think the answer to that is kind of everybody's doing a bit of their own thing. Some people just do the outdoor worship and maybe do something else separately pre-recorded. Some folks are, I know at Unity, we do the outdoor worship and it's not every week. And then there's also a live stream that happens from the sanctuary. So there's just lots of different ways to do it. I know Hope does it where they live stream it to Facebook Live during, and then I know you guys are live streaming at all of it while your actual outdoor worship. And I believe we've recorded at Unity. I don't know if it was live streamed or not. We're having an abundance of tech guys at Unity, so we do all the things.
It was, yes, both the parking lot communion was and inside were both streamed, and also they're recorded so people can see them later. One thing I failed to mention is that the last time we had communion, we had our Unity band play, and there were how many, Ruth? 6 band members, I think, a half a dozen under the tree. They got the best spot under the tree with the shade, and they were a good distance apart from each other. And what I heard from folks is it was a huge morale boost to hear the band play outside under the tree, you know, and kind of that was like, oh yes, this is Moravian, this is what I remember. And we hear the chorales, we hear the band play. There was a real heartfelt, you know, nostalgia or feeling like now we're in worship, so to speak. So I really appreciate Dennis and the band and everyone who came together to do that part.
Evie, you want to talk a little bit about what New Philly is doing? I'm curious about are you doing a drive-in communion or is it a parking lot communion?
We actually do, okay, so every week we do the live stream from the sanctuary, and that's then later put on YouTube. But then occasionally, about once a month so far, on Sundays after the 10 a.m. service concludes, we go out to the parking lot and have folks drive through the portico on their way into the parking lot. And we put the prepackaged communion things in baggies and then have the liturgy printed off so that it's completely touchless. And obviously we're gloved and everything. Hand those out, and then folks go and get a parking spot spaced out in the parking lot. And we have the pastor and the musicians out in the front, mic'd with the AV and everything. So we have a bit of a hybrid going on, but they are able to do it, you know, staying in their cars. And it's actually quite short. I mean, the communion services, since we're not doing the sermon and everything during that, it's just the liturgy. So those are only 15, 20 minutes long. Mm-hmm. But it's been kind of fun because I don't know if you guys are doing this, but when we get to the part about passing the peace, everybody starts honking their horn at the others, and it's just a fun moment for everybody to kind of let off a little bit of steam. So that's been what we're doing.
Great. I will say that as I think about this, one of my concerns is that as time goes by and we get more comfortable and used to outdoor worship, that people will start to relax their you know, social distancing, or they'll forget to put their mask on, or they'll get too close to somebody's car. And I don't know if anybody's come up with any creative ways to, I know I like that. I posted in the chat the link to the 3W signage, but I know outside it's kind of even hard to do the signage sometimes. But I didn't know if anybody else had any thoughts about ways to continually remind folks that we still have to be diligent. It's so hard, I know.
We actually did see that just yesterday, that all of a sudden people started getting out of the cars and wandering around. And at that point, you can't really say a whole lot. So we're gonna have to think about how to fix that.
One thing I try and do is, because I am also in charge of Hope's social media stuff, more specifically Facebook. And every time I do an announcement about, you know, hey, this week we're having our outdoor worship service and our live streaming, I always try and continue to make sure to say, or to include language like, please remember to wear your masks, do your social distancing, and it sort of like not let up on that sort of thing, and just keep reminding people that way, keep putting it, you know, in the forefront so that they won't forget. And I was going to say something else, but then it left me. Oh yeah, and then just continuing to remind people that, like, hey, just because we're doing outdoor worship service doesn't mean you have to come. We are making the live stream available for people to make their own choice. And if they do not feel comfortable, they should not feel like they have to come. So just continuing to make alternative things available for them.
Thanks, Austin. Any other comments, questions? What are you hearing from congregants about outdoor worship?
Well, our folks like the earlier worship time, for one thing, and they like just being together, even though they can't really do a lot of, I mean, just, a few people get out, of course, but not many. Most people just leave, but just, I think being on site and still being together, even though it's not quite the same, it's still been meaningful. And even having to do the music and stuff like they were doing, it's just, it all becomes meaningful just because we're there together again. And so our folks have really, really enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying it myself. And I was proud for all of it to think outside the box, because I'm not usually one that thinks outside the box, and neither are they. But we've done that. We've done a lot of creative things, and I really appreciate all that Jerry has done. And he's kind of in his element, because this is what he likes to do. I know it's taken a lot of his time, but anyway, we really appreciate all that he has done.
You need to train some Jerry apprentices, right? You got to get a couple Jerry apprentices there.
That's the hard part, is finding somebody that'll do it. That's really the hard part.
And it is quite a commitment. I mean, I think, sometimes I think we make it look easier than it really is. There's a lot that goes back into the behind the scenes of making it happen. Even the live streaming, I mean, there's just a lot of energy and effort in order to make it work. So.
I had a question. If folks are doing any non-traditional activities yet, I have 2 or 3 that are in the chute and ready to go as soon as we get to phase 3, but I feel like we have to be in phase 3 before I can really, safely launch them. Has anybody been doing anything like that?
Say more about what you mean by non-traditional.
I want to do a some more love feast. I want to do a sidewalk chalk activity for families out along Country Club Road, where we come together for a quick lesson, maybe under the pavilion, and then head out to the sidewalk, and everybody's got 20 feet in between them. I feel like even if we could do it, even if we can safely socially distance on our grounds, I think for the optics of it, we need to wait for phase 3 to get here. But I was wondering if anybody has started any activities like that you've they've done. I'm thinking for whole families, but it could just be the youth that have done something.
I know that Calvary tomorrow night is going to do a love feast on the lawn, and this is their first attempt at gathering out, at all on site. They have a strange situation. They're the downtown church, and most members from Calvary come from pretty far away to get to Calvary. So I think it may be a bring your own food situation, but I think they're going to be trying that. But I haven't heard a lot anecdotally about much else, frankly. I know Unity, we're going to do a memorial service under our pavilion and around the pavilion, just because we kind of have to get that done. But I'm not aware of other things. Most things are happening on Zoom or somehow pre-recorded in some way, shape, or form.
One fun idea that our youth director came up with was she just had the kids come to the space, get dropped off. Everybody stayed socially distanced, and they brought their hammocks. And they put their hammocks up, 20 feet apart from each other, but they had the opportunity to see each other and talk. And nobody brought snacks. There wasn't any food, but it was just an opportunity for the kids to actually be in the same space safely.
That's nice. I will say a variation on that was, BCM facilitates the RYC, the Regional Youth Council, which is the sort of provincial youth group. And typically they have an end of year picnic, which of course they couldn't do. So basically they did it along South Church Street there in Salem, in front of our offices at 500 South Church. Hannah gave everyone their t-shirt. They drove through. It was a drive-through. Hannah gave everyone their t-shirt. Then they moved on up, and John G. Wright sang them a camp song. And then they moved on up, and Zach Deese prayed with each one of them. So we did it. It was a nice little sort of drive-by event, and they could wave at each other, and that was very well received and had good participation too.
I don't have and don't recall exact all particulars, and Fran's had to leave, but Mizpah's not going to be doing a VBS this year for obvious reasons. And then the Girl Scouts that have been meeting at Mizpah, of course, have not been able to meet at Mizpah since March because we're not allowing anybody in the buildings. So one thing that they're going to do, they've talked to the Girl Scout leader, is our VBS leader is making a VBS kit for the Girl Scouts. And Kathy, you may know a little bit more about this than me, but they're going to meet at the Tobacco Park with the Girl Scouts and hand out these VBS kits. So it's kind of like a way for Mizpah to have a VBS and to connect with the Girl Scouts that we're meeting. But it's only going to be Fran and the leaders that's going to be there. And like I said, I don't know any of the other particulars other than I reach out to the Girl Scouts and the VBS, so to speak.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my sister's working with this to get information, things together, and it's going to be Noah's Ark, and he's got the whole world in his hands. And so she has all these things that she's cutting at. So like Gail said, there'll be these kits, and there's also going to be some little packaged food that they can take with them. So what I understand to be like a message as part of that, and then they'll have maybe talk through here's what you do, but they'll be taking, instead of doing a lot of the hands-on there as far as any crafts, they will be taking those from home to do.
Great. Wonderful. Well, it's 2 o'clock, so I want to be a good steward of your time. I saw one last question in the chat about youth, and if anyone's having any issues with youth and their typical rambunctiousness, I will say Unity doesn't have many youth, so they're staying in their cars. Their parents are in charge of them, and I don't know if that's the case for most of the others, but that's
Our
how
little ones are just, the parents are taking turns watching them on the playground.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So
a lot of youth at Hope are kind of like, not youth, but like college age now, or like freshly into college or older high school. And my dad is the sort of youth coordinator, and he just tries to reach out to them individually every once in a while and just check in on them. We've had a few. There's a popular service called Discord, which is like a combination between Skype and Slack, and we have a Hope Discord that we use, and we have like, we haven't done it lately, but we were doing like every other Sunday, just sort of like a check-in, just talk about how everybody's doing, sort of thing. Pastor David came one time. It was pretty cool. So we're trying to keep that up. But yeah, it's been mostly just, you know, my dad reaching out to them and making sure they're all right.
Great. Yeah, and Austin, this is Austin Craver, who works with BCM too as a video production coordinator. He'd be happy to talk to anybody about Discord if you want to know more about that service or other similar sort of services. So, well, I appreciate you all joining us today. I think it was really great. Next week, we're going to have reps from the Moravian Seminary here to talk about what the seminary is doing, how they're adapting to a pandemic life, and some of the new programs they are actually introducing during this time. So I encourage you all to do that. And we also have, if you go to the link I just posted on Church No Matter What, Moravian, it's our sort of our COVID-19 resources. We have a link to our Summer Connect groups, which are small group experiences for you and or any of your congregants who might want to push themselves a little this summer, learn a little something, be part of a small group. There's a link there to a webpage with a lot more detail about that. So I just make those plugs on our way out. But I thank you all for joining us. Thank you for sharing your experiences. We're all learning together during this time of holy experimenting, right? So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you.